Hello there. I'm Dr. David Morgan. With over 35 years in the field of urology, most of it spent caring for older men, I've come to learn a simple but important truth. There are private matters that, if left unspoken, the body will eventually speak for us by falling ill. I understand some topics make us hesitant, especially when our hair has turned silver, our children are grown, and the world around us seems to suggest that those things should be left behind. But the human body doesn't think that way. It still has its natural rhythms, its quiet needs, and moments when it speaks, not loudly, but unmistakably. I've met many patients over the years. Some were elderly men living alone. Some were retired doctors. Some were teachers or veterans. Different walks of life, but they all had one thing in common. They experienced a health scare that seemed sudden or unreasonable right after doing something completely familiar. You probably know what I'm referring to by now, don't you? An act that feels private, silent, and harmless. Yet if done at the wrong time, it can lead to dizziness, collapse, chest pain, or even a stroke. As a doctor, I'm not here to shame or command. I'm simply here to share with you, as one older friend to another, 7 specific times of day you should avoid if you want to protect your heart, your blood pressure, and your peace of mind. Because sometimes it's not the act itself that's dangerous, it's the timing. If you find this message helpful, please hit the like button so I know I'm not speaking into the void. And if you believe someone else, a friend, a father, a husband, could benefit from this, don't hesitate to share it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and do that, so each week we can sit down together like this, calm, honest, and without rush. Now then, let's begin. Because the very first time I want to warn you about is actually the one many people mistakenly think is the safest. You know, after all these years in practice, I've come to realize something that seems simple, but is deeply important. It's not just what we do, but when we choose to do it that truly determines whether it's safe. That private moment, when done at the right time, can bring relief, relaxation, even a sense of connection with oneself. But if it's done at the wrong time, especially when the body isn't fully prepared, it can place unexpected strain on our heart, our blood pressure, and even our mental clarity. What's surprising is that some of the most peaceful times of day are actually the most dangerous. And the very first time I want you to pay special attention to is between 4 and 6 in the morning. 1. 4 in a urology to 6 a.m., the quiet trap within the body. You might be surprised to learn that the early morning hours, between 4 and 6 are often seen as peaceful, private, and ideal, are actually one of the most dangerous times to engage in intimate moments with yourself. I understand why many older men choose this time. The house is quiet, the world is still asleep, and there's a sense of privacy that feels comforting. It seems like the perfect moment to reconnect with your body quietly, respectfully. But from a medical standpoint, this is when your body is at its most physiologically vulnerable. Between 4 and 6 in the morning, the body undergoes something called the morning surge, a natural and rapid rise in blood pressure as your system prepares to wake up. In younger people, blood vessels are flexible and the heart adapts easily. But in older adults, arteries are stiffer and the cardiovascular system is more fragile. That sudden rise in pressure can be the tipping point. Now, if you add a stimulating activity during this window, like a private moment that raises your heart rate, activates your nervous system, and increases blood flow, you're creating a double strain on the heart. Medical literature and real-life cases confirm that this combination can lead to heart attacks, strokes, or sudden blood pressure drops, sometimes during and sometimes just after climax. I once had a patient in his 70s living alone. He was found unresponsive in his bathroom one morning. No signs of injury, no fall. But after examination, it was clear his heart couldn't handle the combined stress of the morning surge and physical stimulation. That doesn't mean you have to give it up. But it does mean you need to choose a wiser time. Give your body time to fully wake up. Let your blood pressure stabilize. Allow your circulation to catch up with your intentions. But even if you avoid this early morning danger, there's another hidden risk that often follows something almost all of us do every morning. What is it? Let's find out coming up next. 2. Right after taking blood pressure medication. The silent double hit to your heart. Many older adults start their day with a blood pressure pill. But what few people realize is that this very moment can carry a hidden health risk that almost no one talks about. Most blood pressure medications, especially vasodilators or diuretics, reach their peak effect about 1 to 2 hours after ingestion. This is when your blood pressure drops most significantly, helping ease the strain on your heart. But during this window, your body becomes more vulnerable to sudden changes in circulation. If you choose to engage in a private moment during this period, something that also causes a natural drop in blood pressure through vasodilation, parasympathetic nervous system activation, and relaxation hormone release, you're essentially creating a double drop. That's what we call it medically, the double drop effect. Two separate forces lowering your blood pressure, your medication, and the physical stimulation can combine to cause lightheadedness, dizziness, or even fainting. I once treated a 74-year-old man who collapsed shortly after getting out of bed in the morning. At first, his family suspected low blood sugar, but after a full evaluation, we discovered his blood pressure had dropped to dangerously low levels, exactly 1 hour after he'd taken his medication. With gentle honesty, he later shared that he had just finished a quiet, personal moment before the fall. In older adults, the body simply doesn't adapt to rapid changes the way it once did. What used to be harmless now requires more care, more timing, and more awareness. Even small things like when you take your pill or when you choose to stimulate your body can make a big difference. So if you're on blood pressure medication, give yourself at least 2 hours before engaging in any activity that increases blood flow or lowers blood pressure further. And even if you're cautious with your medications, there's still another common habit, something most of us do to relax, that can quietly overwhelm your heart. What is it? 3. Right after a hot shower. When the body is still recovering. Many people enjoy a hot shower in the morning to relax, soothe their body, and prepare for the day ahead. But what you may not realize is this is actually one of the most vulnerable states your body can be in. I understand. That feeling after a warm shower, muscles loosened, mind calm, can make the moment feel just right for a bit of quiet connection with yourself. But beneath that calm, your body is going through a series of subtle but important physiological changes. When you take a hot shower, your blood vessels dilate, especially those near the surface of your skin, as your body tries to release heat. This causes your blood pressure to drop and your circulation shifts. More blood moves toward the skin and away from the brain and internal organs. In short, your cardiovascular system is adjusting and your heart is working to keep everything in balance. If you then add physical stimulation, a private moment that raises your heart rate, alters hormone levels, and demands more blood flow, your heart and vessels may struggle to keep up. For younger bodies, this may not be an issue. But for older adults, especially those over 60, whose blood vessels are stiffer and whose blood pressure is more fragile, this combination of heat-induced dilation and stimulation can lead to sudden dizziness, palpitations or rapid heartbeat, loss of balance, or even fainting, often in the bathroom. I once cared for an elderly gentleman who fell shortly after showering. At first, his family thought he slipped, but when we checked his vitals, his blood pressure had dropped significantly. With a gentle conversation, he shared that he had engaged in a bit of personal activity just after bathing, something he had done for years without trouble. But this time, his heart simply couldn't handle the double strain. That's why I always recommend give your body at least 30 to 45 minutes after a hot shower before engaging in anything stimulating. Let your blood pressure settle, your temperature normalize, and your circulation find its balance again. A little patience can protect you from a major scare. But even if you avoid early mornings, medication windows, and post-shower risks, there's still a certain time quiet, emotional, and deeply personal that can shake your balance both physically and emotionally. I'll meet you there in the next section. 4. 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. When the mind is quiet but the body loses balance. There's a certain time of night when many older adults feel the loneliest, but also the most vulnerable to soft emotions, to seeking comfort, to finding a quiet moment just to feel alive again. That time is between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. I understand that feeling. When the house is silent, the world is asleep, and you finally have some uninterrupted privacy, it can feel like the perfect moment to unwind, reflect, or even soothe something unspoken inside. But physiologically, this is when your body and brain are least prepared for sudden stimulation or strain. Late at night, our brain slows down and reaction times decrease. For older adults, balance, coordination, and mental sharpness are significantly reduced during this window. Your nervous system is winding down, and the hormones that regulate emotional stability, like serotonin and melatonin, are in flux, which makes you more sensitive and emotionally exposed. If you choose to engage in a private, physical moment during this time, even as a way to relax or ease emotional tension, your body may not respond as it once did. You may experience a drop in blood pressure due to vasodilation, a temporary spike in heart rate followed by a sudden dip, a surge in calming hormones like oxytocin that relax you but also lower alertness. This combination can easily lead to lightheadedness, dizziness, or even fainting, especially if you stand up quickly to go to the bathroom or get back into bed. If you live alone, this risk becomes more serious. A fall in the middle of the night with no one nearby to help can go unnoticed for hours. There's also an emotional risk. Late-night moments of intimacy can shift from something comforting into something compulsive, especially if they're used as a way to numb loneliness rather than foster connection. Over time, this pattern may increase emotional isolation, reduce motivation for social engagement, and even disrupt your sleep. So if you do feel the need to connect with yourself, try to choose a time when your mind is alert, your body is more responsive, and help needed is close at hand. But nighttime isn't the final hidden danger. There's another familiar time something that happens every single day that quietly causes many people to feel faint or even pass out on the spot. 5. When the body is dehydrated, especially right after waking up. Have you ever felt lightheaded the moment you got out of bed in the morning? If you have, you're certainly not alone. That dizzy, foggy feeling in the first few seconds of standing up is incredibly common among people over 60, and most of the time, we brush it off, not realizing it can lead to something far more serious. After a full night of sleep, your body has gone 6 to 8 hours without water. That means your blood becomes slightly thicker, your overall blood volume drops, and your circulation slows down, especially to the brain, making your system more sensitive to any sudden movements or demands. Now imagine adding a moment of personal stimulation at that time when you're still mildly dehydrated and your blood pressure hasn't stabilized yet. That intimate activity puts additional pressure on your cardiovascular system. Your heart has to pump harder, your blood vessels dilate, and yet there's less blood volume to work with. The result? Not enough blood reaches the brain. You may experience orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure when you stand, leading to dizziness, blurred vision, or even fainting. I remember one Pacenta, 68-year-old gentleman, living with his son who came in after a minor fall in his bedroom. There was no serious injury, no loss of consciousness. But when I asked him to walk me through what happened, he admitted a little shyly that he had just woken up, hadn't eaten or drunk anything, and decided to relax a little before starting his day. When he stood up afterward to go to the bathroom, the room spun and he fell straight back onto the bed. His vitals were clear. Mild dehydration combined with sudden stimulation had triggered a blood pressure drop that his body couldn't adapt to fast enough. Thankfully, there's a simple, effective way to reduce this risk: a full glass of water right after waking up before you do anything else. It's a small step that helps rehydrate your body, improves blood flow to the brain, and protects against lightheadedness and sudden falls. Just one glass of water in the morning can be the medicine that protects you from an unexpected and dangerous situation. Right after sitting or lying down for a long time, when the body is ready to restart. Many older adults enjoy sitting for hours watching TV, reading a book, or simply resting on the sofa, and that's perfectly understandable. At our age, we all need those quiet moments. But what most people don't realize is that right after those long periods of rest, the body is at a silent risk. When you sit or lie down for too long, especially on a soft couch, or bed, blood tends to pool in the lower parts of your body, especially the legs. Circulation slows, and blood pressure to the brain may drop slightly. In younger people, the cardiovascular system quickly adjusts when they stand or become active again. But in older adults, blood vessels are less elastic, and the heart takes longer to respond. Now, if after that long period of rest you engage in a physically stimulating activity, even something gentle and private, your heart suddenly has to work overtime. Your pulse rises, your blood vessels widen, and if you stand up afterwards, to go to the bathroom or get dressed, your system may not catch up in time. That's when you may feel dizzy, lightheaded, or even collapse. I've seen it happen more often than people think. I remember a passionate and elderly gentleman in his 70s who liked to watch TV in the evening and often nodded off for a nap on the sofa. One night, he woke up, felt light, and decided to relax a little. Shortly after, when he stood up to turn off the lights, he suddenly felt faint and fell to the floor. Fortunately, his son was in the next room and heard the thump in time to help him. When I saw him in the clinic later, I explained gently, it wasn't what he did that was wrong. It was simply that his body wasn't ready yet. So if you've been sitting or lying down for a while, give your body a chance to wake up before doing anything stimulating. Stretch your arms, take a few steps around the room, breathe deeply. These simple actions can help your circulation catch up and keep you safe. But sometimes the real danger doesn't come from the body at all. It comes from something deeper or emotions. And the final time I want you to pay close attention to doesn't happen at any specific hour. It happens during the moments when your heart is at its most vulnerable. Let's talk about that next. 7. When you're emotionally vulnerable, the quietest, yet most risky time. There are moments when we're not really seeking pleasure. We're just hoping for comfort, something to settle the heart, to remind us that we're still connected to something familiar, something that feels like home. I've spoken with many older men who seemed cheerful on the outside, who played with their grandkids or walked the neighborhood each morning, yet quietly carried grief, loneliness, or a deep sense of disconnection they rarely spoke of. In those quiet hours, it's completely understandable to turn to a private act. It can feel like a small refuge, a temporary release from what's weighing you down emotionally. And in moderation, when the heart is steady and the mind is at peace, such moments can be part of a healthy relationship with oneself. But when they become a habit formed out of emotional pain, when you find yourself returning to that act not for joy, but for escape, then it becomes something else entirely. It shifts from comfort to coping, from connection to avoidance. Biologically speaking, when we stimulate the body, it releases dopamine, a feel-good chemical that gives us a temporary emotional lift. But after the high fades, dopamine levels drop sharply, often leaving behind a deeper sense of emptiness, restlessness, or even sadness. When this happens again and again, it can quietly form a cycle. You feel low or alone. You turn to the act to feel better. You get a brief emotional lift, then fall back into emptiness and return to the act once more. Over time, this can lead to emotional isolation, trouble sleeping, and an overall sense that something is missing, even if you can quite name it. I don't share this to make you feel ashamed. In fact, it's the opposite. Your emotions are worthy of attention. They matter. Sometimes healing doesn't come from doing something. It comes from simply allowing yourself to say, I'm hurting. I need someone to talk to. Because often what we truly need isn't an action. It's a person who's willing to listen. My dear friend, if you've stayed with me all the way until now, I want to thank you because that tells me you truly care about your health, not out of fear, but out of quiet, thoughtful respect for the body you've lived in for so many years. I often tell my older patients, after the age of 60, our bodies no longer stay silent. They begin to speak through a fluttering heartbeat, through dizziness when standing up, or through a kind of fatigue that doesn't have a clear reason. And if we listen long enough, we realize that what matters isn't whether we engage in certain personal habits or not, but rather when we do them, how we do them, and why. Private acts of self-intimacy. If you've noticed, I never once called them wrong. Because they're not. They are a natural part of being human, a quiet part, a personal part, and sometimes a very meaningful part. But once the body begins to change, we must meet it with new awareness. We can no longer use the same routines from decades ago. We need to slow down, pay attention, and adjust so that even the most personal moments become acts of care, not unintended harm. These 7 times I've shared with you today, they are not warnings meant to scare you. They are invitations to be more intentional, more connected with yourself, to live not by old habits, but by new understanding. That is what I hope for you as a doctor and as someone who walks this aging journey alongside you. If there was a particular time that surprised you, or one you'd like to learn more about, I invite you to leave a comment with the number that stood out most. I do read them, and they help me shape what to share next. If you found this video helpful, feel free to like it, share it with someone who might need it, or subscribe to this channel so that we can meet again, week after week, as two friends sharing time, stories, and wisdom. Taking care of your body doesn't mean giving up on your private self. It means learning how to honor it with awareness and with kindness.